I have come to Hawaii looking for Baker rifles and Brown Bess muskets. And I've been guided by A Military History of Sovereign Hawaii by Neil Bernard Dukas. And I've been also guided by The Battle of Nu'uanu, 1795. Both of these books are must-reads if you're into the Brown Bess, because what they talk about is the amazing transition of culture that the native Hawaiian people underwent starting around 1778 with Captain Cook's arrival. How do intelligent people cope with vast technological change? And that's what absolutely fascinates me, because we're going through it ourselves, aren't we? We're experiencing it as well. The Brown Bess musket was a big part of that. In the process of this search, I have come here to the U.S. Army Museum of Hawaii, which incongruously is 50 yards away from the Waikiki beach in Honolulu. It's in the middle of downtown Honolulu, and it is epic. It's an astonishing museum filled with artifacts and really good explanations about how the military history of Hawaii evolved right up until the present day. So let's go in right now and see what we can see with Brown Bess muskets. Baker rifles? Probably not. Let's go inside and see. As you know, I'm fascinated by the Baker rifle and the Brown Bess, and I'm especially fascinated by how their dissemination from England influenced world events. And one of the great places that the Brown Bess and the Baker rifle, almost entirely the Brown Bess, influenced history was right here in the Hawaiian Islands. So I'm here, and these are sling stones. For some reason, the Hawaiians didn't use bows and arrows. They preferred throwing these giant spears. Hawaiians were warriors. The lua were extremely physically fit. They really trained for it. They basically had a feudal system, so they had knights, basically, and those people would be extremely capable in warfare. Into this mix comes Captain Cook, other English traders bearing something that they had never seen before. When Captain Cook died at Kealakekua Bay, thank you very much, when he tried to take Kalaniʻōpuʻu, the chief hostage, to get one of his dinghies back for his ship, the English captain unleashed the British Marines with Brown Bess muskets, and that was a real eye-opener to some very astute people. They were big, they were brawny, and they were brainy, and they realized immediately that this was a game changer. Those muskets were important. Later, in the 1780s, when the Olowalu massacre happened over on Maui, and the ship sailed to Hawaii, and they took out the entire ship and spared just 2 crew members to serve as guides for how to use the technology. The Hawaiians actually captured some Western-style vessels. Weren't any more seaworthy, but they were bigger, such as the Fair American, and cannon, small cannon mostly, and muskets. And the musket frenzy began. It was an arms race. And into this feudal society with highly developed warrior culture, you see these Brown Besses being used. And make no mistake, they were not primitives. They knew how to fight a fight. Right over here, right 100 yards away from me, is Waikiki Beach, and that's where Kamehameha landed. And in I guess it would be 1795, landed here and began his conquest of the island of Oahu. He moved over from, let's go over here. He expanded out using his warrior culture and his Brown Bess muskets. He expanded out across the islands until he got to Oahu. And that's where the Battle of Nu'uanu happened. Here's Kalaniʻōpuʻu. When he died in 1782, he left his kingdom to his son, but to his nephew, Kamehameha. He left the war god Ku. And Kamehameha was brutal, ruthless, large and intelligent. And he realized that the key to this was military conquest. So he attacked, this is Kualo'o and Keoa. I'm mispronouncing it. I apologize to anybody who really knows. Those were his sons, but his nephew Kamehameha took over and expanded throughout Hawaii. So this is big. This is big because what you're seeing here is in Maui you saw Brown Bess muskets being used. You saw Brown Bess muskets being used, and I'm sure some rifles were along. But the evidence, you know, I look at the people who really studied this, and you look at Neil Bernard Ducas's books, and it's possible that Kamehameha may have had 5,000 muskets later. Probably not. And during these conquest years, there would probably have been earlier patterned Brown Besses. 1794, remember, to put it in context, the United States is still fighting the wars with the Miami Indians. The British are dealing with the French Revolution, but not really the full-on Napoleon issue yet. So they're still using short-land Brown Besses. There aren't a lot of Brown Besses out there yet. He lands in Waikiki, he moves upland, and a climactic battle of Nu'uanu-Pali happens, where some of the Oahuan and force actually gets forced off the cliff. These people were ruthless if you happen to be on the losing side. Let's take a look at this. Now, this is what I came to Hawaii to find. I actually came to Hawaii to find Brown Bess and Baker rifles. Here we have one. There's no evidence, I think that's a museum mark, there's no evidence that this one is from the Wars of Unification that ended in 1795. Here's what I'm seeing. First of all, it's a Brown Bess musket. You can tell by the palm swell. You can tell by the lack of barrel bands. You can tell by the tulip for the ramrod. It's late. This is a Ramsey and Sutherland. What's a Ramsey and Sutherland? Ramsey and Sutherland took over after Napoleon was defeated in 1815 and remade these muskets shorter for militia and volunteer organizations. This would have been perfect for the 1820s, the 1830s. They redid these locks to say London and Ramsey and Sutherland. It's using a very late India pattern cock. It's a damn good musket, and it's got a commercial proof but not a British military proof. So what have we got here? We've got a war that would have been, we've got a musket that would have been used after the Wars of Unification, but very emblematic of the kind of musket that was used up until 1795 in the War of Unification. So I'm guessing that if this has any Hawaiian provenance, it is after 1820. So let's go take one more look. There's another room here I want to show you at this beautiful museum to show you how these muskets were used. We got the music. This is a depiction of what a warrior, an ali'i, would have looked like. That's not armor, that's a feathered helmet and a feathered cape. They've actually got some of the originals from the actual ali'i with the names of the ali'i at the Bishop Museum. We'll go see those next. But this is what they would have had with a musket. What a change. I have a feeling that this Neil Bernard Ducas is right, and that is that I think he captures it. The ali'i probably didn't like the muskets because they were kind of forced upon them by the changes in technology. Both sides had them, and I think it was considered unchivalrous, just like Westerners felt during the rise of the machine gun. But there we are, they had them. This is what it would have looked like. This is pretty dramatic. This is by Herb Kawainui Kane. It's a heck of a painting. And it shows you how technologies blended in the Hawaiian Wars of Unification. Here's the fair American, which has been captured by Kamehameha. The war god Ku, the idol, is being lifted. So they're still using the belief system, the kapu system. They're cruising in. There's a swivel gun. They probably loaded those with buckshot because that would have been effective, especially against a mass like this. But look, they're fighting with leo manu and other tools of Hawaiian combat. They're fighting just like muskets didn't exist, except that here's a pistol, here's a swivel gun, and over here, look, somebody is shooting a Brown Bess, and there's a swivel gun, and here's another musket. So that, I think that captures pretty accurately. My guess is that they did not field regiments marching along like redcoats. I think the books are right on that one. They use them as skirmishers and to blow holes in the opposing line. Remember, some of these armies could be 30,000 men. Let's take a look at this now. This is completely traditional with a swivel gun. And that kind of captures that. I have no idea if this one's original. I kind of doubt it. I have my doubts. But that shows you about the size of it. They did have larger cannon as well, but not very many, and they pulled them on sleds, not wheels, because of the terrain. This is... History records that the warriors could throw these and dodge these spears, and they're big spears. And this is the musket that replaced them. This is a replica. It's got a royal Hawaiian mark on the lock, but the trigger guard is absolutely unfortunate. So my guess is, and the flint is also tragic. So my guess is that it is a replica, but it gives you an idea of how the musket would have fit in. Okay, look. Obviously, that second Brown Bess was a modern version. I don't call them reproductions because it's not a fake. It's probably a real gun, and it's there for real use in the real world in the 21st century. That's why I call my studies the Brown Bess in the 21st century, because we're using them nowadays. But anyway, the fact that Brown Besses were present and a major influence in Hawaii. This is Waikiki. This is where Kamehameha took his war canoes ashore on Oahu. Boy, if you could see it now.